All right. So I'm a little bit late. We are going. And I just let Lisa and Karen know that we are actually up and going now. So hopefully they'll be on shortly. And I also need to update the. I see Elisa.
Hello. Sorry, I'm running late today.
We all are.
Yes.
I literally just posted on Pixie Elegance that the Bookstream, I can't words, that Bookcraft was going to be
Now?
Was going to be a couple minutes late, and now I can't find the post to update that we're up now.
Oh, don't you love that?
Like, I just posted it. Did it just not post?
I would not be surprised. Oops.
I found it!
Yay! There we
4
go.
minutes ago, it tells me.
There you go.
All right. And there we go. What you working on tonight?
I am trying to find a pattern that works with this gradient yarn that isn't a typical shawl, a scarf. I mean, everyone uses it for a scarf. No, I am here. Hi.
Hello. What are you working on? Pause.
I'm going to be working on turning all of my beaded earrings into actual earrings from Easter, because I never finished that. So there you go. I want to take pictures of them, so I'm going to be actually like making them earrings.
Cool. I am working on sketching out designs for some jewelry, specifically some that a friend semi-requested. She was telling me about some jewelry that she wants, and I was like, ooh, I have ideas. And I was going to sketch it like weeks ago, and then other stuff kept coming up. So I'm going to sketch out ideas and send them to her. Okay. My children often also use my notebook, particularly during church. And so I have a person and a person and a person. They're almost exactly the same picture, one per page. Like 10 pages or something.
Maybe they're trying to do one of those like flip books. You know, it moves little by little each page.
Well, he keeps asking for help knowing how to draw realistic people, so I think he was trying to figure out how to make it more realistic. He keeps going, can you teach me to draw as good as you? And I'm like, I can give you tips and pointers, but the big thing is to continue practicing. When I was 8, I did not draw as well as I draw at 36.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I did not finish the last chapter.
What? Sorry, my
You
ears
didn't
are
read
not
the last
working.
chapter.
No, I did not finish the last chapter. I don't know why I
Well,
took my bookmark out.
I have been I was listening to it at work, but I was listening to like a kind of a free podcast version, more or less, like a podcast free audiobook version, something like that. Anyway, each chapter is read by a different person, and the chapter 21 was the first and so far only one that was read by a man. And because my hearing loss, even though they say that it's certain high tones that moved from the mild to moderate range, I tend to have a really hard time understanding men's voices more than women's. So I was having a really hard time hearing a lot of chapter 21, especially with how loud our work is. So, I mean, I got the general gist, but then I got home and I couldn't figure out where my actual physical copy of the book is. So there's that. So anyone want to jump in?
Okay.
By anyone,
So
I mostly
chapter
mean
21 was Lori causes mischief, Joe makes peace, right?
yes.
Okay. So I thought that was kind of interesting and very, very cruel of Lori. That was not a nice prank. It was not.
No,
What I gotta say.
I didn't make that prank.
I think I don't know this for sure, but I think maybe in some ways Lori feels very similar to Joe in that he doesn't want their current situation, their little group, to change. But no, it was not kind at all.
It was not kind.
There's no disputing that. No. But I wonder if that was his motivation, is what I mean.
I think Joe said it, like in the book, Joe said it was because she wouldn't tell him her secret.
Yeah, but I feel like Joe thought that was why, but
I think maybe he just wanted to kind of like move things along while getting back at Joe, because he's been pushing Brooks and Meg together for quite a while.
yeah, but he also wrote the letter back saying, "No, I never wrote you a love letter."
Right, I think that was him getting back at Joe because he said that your sister Joe is up to her mean tricks. Like, Brooks wouldn't say that.
No, but even doing all of that, like, just seems really mean to Meg too. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't think in getting back at Joe. Maybe he just didn't think about how it would be to Meg too. But I just kind of interpreted it as like he's kind of a romantic, and I think the romantic in him wants them to get together, but the brother and friend is very much like Joe and doesn't want their group to change, and so he's kind of torn. That's my probably reading into it interpretation.
I wish he'd gone into more detail about how Lori felt and
Yeah.
why. We don't often get Lori's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the chapter is everybody's happy that Amy's back in the house and Beth is feeling better. And it becomes, I think it becomes Christmas time is what it is.
Yeah, it was November in the last chapter, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it was Christmas because they were talking about gifts and everything.
Yeah, it was
That was chapter
approaching Christmas
22.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
And
back to
then-
Christmas. It's been a full year since the beginning of the book.
I know. And then their father comes home as a surprise.
I want to go back to 21 first.
This is 21.
No, 22 is the Christmas. Is
Oh, am
the
I
Christmas
skipping?
chapter.
I'm skipping.
You're skipping.
I'm
You're
like,
skipping one
okay.
of my favorite parts here. We're just not going to skip that. Look, Teddy asked Joe to go away with him, run away with him. I know it was because he was upset with his grandfather, but he asked Joe to run
I
away
knew you
with
would
him.
love that part. I'm like, Karen's gonna thrive on this
I
little
love
chapter.
that part.
Sorry, for some reason I thought that was like the opening part. And I was like thinking that was quite a bit to rush. It's because I'm skipping a chapter.
Yeah,
And
the whole chapter is there was the fight, there was the whole him making and then him apologizing, then him having the row with his grandfather because he couldn't tell his grandfather why.
I remember about the fight with his grandfather, but I forgot about the asking her to run away with him. I think that was one of the parts that I couldn't hear, and I forgot about it from last time I read the book.
yeah, he's like, let's run to Washington. I'll go hang out with Mr. Brooks. You can hang out with your father.
Which is very, very different from like, let's elope or something like that. I just want to point that out.
It
Right.
is, but still, he asked Joe to run away with him. I thought it was cute.
You're so cute.
You also probably think it's cute that Joe's the only one that calls him Teddy.
I do. It's like a personal little nickname. It's super cute. Okay? My ship will sail someday. If only in my dreams.
I did feel really bad for Mr. Lawrence when Joe did mention Lori wanted to run away, and he instantly looked at the picture of his son.
Mm.
Like the gut-wrenching feeling that Mr. Lawrence must have felt.
We also just mentioned the
I wonder if
vocabulary used in the second half
What?
of chapter 21. The vocabulary used in the second half of chapter 21. Like, did you guys start looking at the vocabulary?
I'm not sure what you mean.
We both listened to it audibly this time. We didn't look at the vocabulary.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
Well, but I also was just having a hard time hearing it, so I probably missed a lot of the vocabulary.
Let's see. That's what she tells him. At one point, he's I will find it. Give me a second. So she says he'll run away. And he's like, he won't do it unless he's very much worried and only threatens it sometimes. He basically tries to make a joke of it. He says, "You hussy, how dare you talk that way? Where's your respect for me? Your proper bringing up." And just that kind of vocabulary is like through their whole conversation is I'm like, what? You're a sly puss, but I don't mind being managed by you and Beth.
Oh, those things were very different types of terms in the time where the book takes place than they are now.
Yes.
So you can't, like, it sounds odd to us, but in this is the early 1900s, right? Like the 30s, right?
I just find it's such odd
1860s.
vocabulary.
1860.
Because
Okay.
we haven't heard this kind
Civil
of
War.
vocabulary up till now in the book.
All right.
What, Karen?
We haven't received this kind of vocabulary up till now in the book.
Um,
So
well, the managing thing has been mentioned before in several chapters. And terms like hussy have been thrown around before too. But never as like offensive.
no. I'm just there's like you gotta remember there's a lot of chapters I just skimmed. So
Yeah, they've popped up before.
I was just like, can we just talk about the vocabulary in the second half? Because it was just weird. For me, it felt weird and out of place.
Totally random. Kara, this is gonna make me tear up. And I don't want to talk about why. I just counted the random change on my desk and it was 64 cents.
Aww.
All
Okay.
right, sorry. Had to share. Yeah. So the language is terminology they've been using through the entire book so far.
And it still feels weird that you have this gentleman using such slang at the time. So like, what is she, 16, 17 at the time?
Joe is 16. Yeah. But I do like that even though Mr. Lawrence is stern, like he is kind-hearted. Like sometimes he does take it too far and he admits it. He gets swept away in the emotions that he has, but he is such he's so kind-hearted, and I like that about Mr. Lawrence. Is he's always seen as this like scary dude, but he's just stern.
He means well.
He means well. Thank you. Yes.
He's not always good at doing well, but he means well.
He means well. I like it. The maids are like, "Ooh, I wouldn't go in there."
What?
The
What'd you
maids are
say?
pretty much like, "I wouldn't go in there."
Oh yeah. Whoops, hold on. My notification. I silenced my phone and forgot to silence the notification. Sorry.
These are long. Like we're like, let's do 3, and they were long. These chapters were long. Lots of detail.
Yep.
Poor Meg though, because like Meg is trying to figure out her feelings for Mr. Brooke at this point. And she gets this letter and she responds just the way she should because that's how she feels. And it's like poor Meg, you know? And poor Meg.
Yep. Absolutely.
Alright. And then we move on, everything's merry, everything's happy, and it's now Christmas. And
I read so much Jane Austen fan fiction that you said everything's merry, and my brain immediately was like, wait, everything is Mary? Wait, Mary is not Mary. Mary's not a sister in this one. Mary's a sister in Pride and Prejudice. Okay.
Everything's happy. Mr. March comes home. And I love how they take Mr. March coming home to kind of just like reflect on the past year. Like he's talking about how each daughter has grown, and it's literally just like a quick abridgment of how each girl has changed over the progress of the story.
Yep.
Like how everybody's changed since that Christmas Eve party at the beginning of the book.
Yep.
And they're
Yeah, I
all
agree.
sad and
It's
they're
really
talking
well
about how
done.
little they had.
Where did I put? Oh, there it is. Lost
Yeah,
my
they were
eraser for a minute.
They were going on about how little they had, and now they feel like they have so much.
They have definitely learned so much. Which is so easy for us to say, sitting reading the book and not living their lives.
Well, I think honestly, like the travesty of almost losing their father and their sister in the same month was a bit much.
I mean, yeah.
I think that made a lot of them grow up real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember much more from that chapter other than the Christmas reunion. And Hannah bawling in the turkey. I thought that was so funny.
Where's your bone? Because she dropped the turkey.
No, she forgot to put it down. She had nowhere to set the turkey.
She wasn't quite falling in it, she was crying in it.
Oh.
Crying into it.
Oh, that,
I just
bawling,
bawling.
crying.
She forgot to put it down. I was like,
Oh, did you say bawling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought you
yeah,
said
like,
falling. I was like,
Oh,
she
no.
didn't fall into it.
No. bawling with a B.
That makes a
Just
lot
like-
more sense.
I was like, I didn't really think there was a need for a difference between crying and bawling, but okay. Let's see. Yeah, what else? I don't remember much from that chapter.
Originally, they had just gotten a letter saying that he wished to be there soon. It was like a final surprise that he showed up. Their father in that chapter.
Yeah. Oh, there was a Mr. Brooks thing where he just like quickly like leaves when he sees Meg. He just leaves.
No, he kissed her at one point. He claimed it was an accident.
He claimed it was an accident. Made an excuse and left.
I mean, what would you do? Like, certainly not gonna be like, yep, been waiting to do that.
Yeah, right? Like, nope. He's trying to be patient, Mr. Brooks is.
Trying so hard.
He's trying
It's
so
very
hard.
hard.
Trying to give Meg the space she deserves.
Right.
I think I'm gonna have to get creative with how I'm putting these together because my jump rings don't fit in between the gaps because there's no gaps because I made the beading too tight to make it nice and sturdy, and there's no gap for me to stick the jump ring in. So I'm gonna get creative and use a little bit of chain.
I like it.
We'll see how this goes. Yeah. So as far as chapter 23 goes, which we're just approaching, I have no idea. Didn't read it.
I think this is probably my favorite chapter yet because
You mean chapter 22?
No, we just talked about 22.
'22 was the Christmas episode or chapter.
Christmas episode.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, Glenn.
Yep. Sorry, I got very confused for a second. We're good. Keep talking.
Okay. So it starts off with Joe pretty much sitting there with Meg and rehearsing. Oh shoot, back to the Christmas episode. This was so cute. Beth's gift from Joe and Lori.
Oh my gosh, I forgot it.
That was so cute.
I knew I was forgetting to say something. Oh, that and Beth coming out when their dad gets there. Beth like flying out and like sitting
She,
on
like,
his
comes
knee.
out of the study, like just like glomps him, just like run hugs. like so happy to see her dad. And then they're both the invalids, so they both get to chill in the study together. She's just like, I'm like, oh. They constantly call them the invalids. I gotta smile every time I hear that.
Right.
They're sick, so they're invalids. Uh yeah, but I just liked it, like the snowman and the little like basket and the song and oh, and then she's so happy her father's home she has to sing and play the piano. Like she's barely having it, she's struggling to sew at this point because her fingers are so fumbly, and she just wants to play the piano for her father, and I'm just like, oh,
She's so sweet.
she really is.
She's
that.
she's just pure sweetness and goodness.
She really, really is.
Really makes it very understandable why everybody cares so much when something's up with Beth in particular.
Yeah. Okay, so Joe's sitting there with Meg, and they're sewing by the window, and Joe is constantly telling her like, no, you can't marry Mr. Brooks. What are you gonna say if he asks? She's like, I'm gonna tell him I'm too young.
She's like, what are you going to say if he asks? P.S. The correct answer is no.
Right, correct answer is no. And she basically states the same thing as she did in her letter that was the prank. Like, she's too young to marry. She's not thinking of prospects right now. That sort of thing. And then lo and behold, Mr. Brooks comes to call for his umbrella. I'm sure that was the reason.
It was definitely for the umbrella. I don't know what you're talking about.
Definitely for the umbrella. And so Joe leaves to give her sister the time she needs
To reject him, because that's definitely going to happen.
Right. I gotta be honest, like, when they said that she had this, like, power within her, like, I really thought that they were gonna go a different way than they did, because instead of being powerful, she became almost not even a tease. She was just like being ruthless, being mean about it. I felt like with his rejecting him outright, not even like saying her own feelings and just being like, how dare you? And I'm like, I kind of expected her to react differently than that, I guess. Like when they said that, like, you know, this power that all females have, I'm like, yeah, there is a certain power, but I wouldn't put that as the category.
Okay. But bearing in mind, this was a time when women were seen as terrible radicals if they were the kind of women who were asking for the right to vote. So what was considered power for a woman, it was very different from what is considered power for a woman today.
Okay, I'll accept that. Like, because like we said, the use of a lot of the words they use in that have changed over the years.
A lot of perspectives have changed too. I mean, I look at things at sometimes I think that to the individual, any given individual, perspectives have not necessarily changed as much. There were always people who believed in things that are believed today, and there were always people, and there are always still people who don't believe things that other people think have already been put to rest. As far as like prejudices and things. But as a society as a whole, there is a big difference. There's a big difference in, again, going back to like she was writing these to make money. She was writing these to be published, and what would be accepted to be published and accepted as a lesson that people wouldn't freak out about if they published it. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Louise May Alcott personally believed, but that's the thing. Like, we can't really know because she wrote to the audience that she needed to, which, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a bad thing to write to that
No, I'm
to
just
the
saying,
audience you need to or anything, but
it was just a completely different reaction than I expected from her.
yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
would expected maybe like being an independent woman, rather than this I reject you kind of woman moment, you know? Like, she literally tells him to go away. I'm like, okay, she's gonna regret that later.
I'm sure. I don't know what you mean. Nothing could possibly go bad from that.
And Karen has no input at this point because she didn't read this chapter. So then, all of a sudden, they're arguing. I feel like it's at the foot of a staircase in front of the front door. I don't know why I feel like it's a staircase. I just, in my head, that's what I saw. But they're just standing there talking. And he's like, please give me a chance. And she's like, you need to leave. Because I am too young to make these decisions.
Which is kind of hilarious.
And then Miss March, Aunt March comes through the door. No reaction from Karen. Okay. I'm waiting for Karen's reaction.
I recognize the name from the chapter title.
I didn't think Aunt March left her home, to be
Yeah,
honest.
but the first time she was a recluse, she didn't leave her house that much.
Right?
So she came to see Mr. March because he was home, her nephew, because he was home. And then she sees Meg talking with this guy. I'm assuming she must have been standing there for a minute.
That seems likely.
Because all of a sudden Meg just caught sight of her. Doesn't say she burst through the door, just said Meg saw her. I'm like, she's been standing there a minute.
I feel like probably, yeah.
And then Meg and Miss Aunt March speak privately, and basically Aunt March says, you can't marry Mr. Brooks. If you marry Mr. Brooks, you will inherit no money from me.
Oh.
She's like, it is your job as the oldest to marry money to better your family standing. Yeah.
That will never not make me.
But that's how Aunt March thinks. Like, that's how she was raised. Like, and part of me is hoping that like Aunt March will get over it and change her mind, but I also think she's pretty darn stubborn. So
What? No.
I can see her taking Meg out of her will.
Right?
But this basically gives Meg another voice in her voice. This like, you can't tell me what to do. I will marry Mr. Brooks if I want to. He loves me, and I, oh shoot, can't say love him because Because I just told him to go away and he might be standing outside the door.
Which is hilarious. Like, woman, if you hadn't said something,
If Aunt March hadn't come in, Meg would have no idea she loved Mr. Brooks.
also, if Aunt March hadn't come in, she wouldn't have shot herself in the foot. Like, Meg told him to go away. What are you like?
I'm sure Lori would have helped fix it. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure eventually, but like for the time being,
I was like,
all
oh,
Aunt March
him for
did
Mr. Brooks.
was make her own agenda less likely to happen. It just cracks me up.
So Aunt March leaves in a huff without even saying hi to Mr. March,
Whom she came there to see.
who she came to see. Because Meg says she wants to marry Mr. Brooks, who is poor.
Gasp.
Apparently living in a little cottage is nothing. I'd be happy to live in a cottage, like a little house that was owned. That would be nice.
Now can we back up? Remember, like a year ago, Meg's greatest dreams and aspirations.
That was that summer, wasn't it? That was just like 6 months before that.
I mean, yeah, even 6 months before, but she talked about it a lot. It's basically how she was introduced at the beginning of the book, which is what I think of. But yeah, you're right. She was talking about it at the beginning of the summer.
When they were at their picnic and Lori came to visit.
Yep.
And her party, the slumber party, the 2-week slumber party thingy.
Oh yeah, Meg went to that slumber party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All she wanted.
I think she was poor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like how she got her first silk dress for Christmas. Like, aw.
That
Like
was
she's
from
been
Mr.
waiting for that
Lawrence.
silk dress.
Oh, that was
Huh?
from Mr. Lawrence. Mr.
Yeah.
Lawrence gave her that.
I know, but she finally got her own silk dress. Like, she's been waiting for a silk dress. But and then so in walks Mr. Brooke, who overheard all of that, and they kind of like, without actually saying it, agree to be engaged in the future. Pretty much.
Pre-engaged.
They're pre-engaged. And so then they kiss, and Joe walks in thinking, all smug, thinking that Margaret kicked him out.
Remember, she still wants Megan and Teddy to be together.
She does, but she doesn't want her family to break up. That's their biggest thing. She doesn't want her family to be taken apart.
Man,
and then he
I
calls
wouldn't
her
either.
Joe. Like, he just instantly starts calling her sister Joe, and that offset Joe so bad. She's like, "Hello, I am not your sister."
I don't blame her, honestly.
No, I understand.
Like, I consider most of my in-law siblings to be my siblings. But if they called me Sister Caroline or Sister Kay, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? My siblings don't call me Sister Caroline. I'm not a nun.
Right. But then everybody else comes filing in one by one and is so excited and thrilled by the news. And even Lori comes in excited, which
Yep.
offsets Joe. She's like, "You're supposed to be disappointed with me."
You're my comrade in arms in this. Didn't you know that? Didn't you know we have the exact same opinion? You forgot to have the same opinion as me.
He did. And he's like, "She was my confidant, my closest friend. Like, what am I gonna do without her?" He goes, "You're not losing her, you're just sharing her." She's like, "I don't want to share her."
Okay, Joe, I feel like some of the lessons of the past year you didn't fully learn yet.
I haven't decided if I like this pattern yet. I'm still going to see if I do, but what do you guys think?
All right. Oh man, my
I
nose
can't
itches.
tell what pattern that is.
Who did
Was
what?
that granny square pattern?
It's a it's just a bunches of 5 in a triangular pattern.
Hmm. I think I need
Um,
some fancy schmancy wrapping in here.
and
I got
then
the
to
most
end
outside.
it, Jill looks around the room and just to see how happy her family is. And they're talking about how in 3 years, Mr. Brooks plans to, he has a 3-year plan, which is good because Meg isn't 20 until 3 years.
Yep.
And then her parents don't want her to marry before 20. So
Some they may have spoken to Brooke about this.
I think they did. I think she mentioned it in the last chapter we read, when Joe
Yeah,
confided
while
in
they
her
were
mom.
while they were in DC.
Yeah, Mr. Brooks had told them of his feelings, and they told him that they didn't want Meg married until she was 20. And he's willing to wait. That's so sweet. I'll wait. Just tell me that what I'm working for is worth it. That's all he wanted. Like that it's there.
I don't even think that he's questioning that it's worth it. He just needs to know that he's going to get it.
Right. Like if I work this hard for us to have a life, you'll want to be there too, right? You'll be there too. And Joe's like, "I don't think my family could get any happier. I don't think things will be happier in 3 years."
All right.
I think we went into a lot of detail in that last one because I wanted to make sure Karen knew what happened. But
Yep.
and I'm a sucker for those drama scenes in a romance book.
In
The moment of truth.
fairness, this is not strictly speaking a romance book, but this is definitely a romantic part. So yes.
I know it's not a romance book.
I only had to say it because it so often gets categorized that way
It's not
by
really.
people who just kind of assume that because book written by a woman featuring 4 women, and therefore, of course it is. What else would it be?
It's a family values book.
Yep, it is. That's a very good way of wording that.
I'm not exactly sure if that's an actual category, but
I don't
That's
know.
exactly what it is. Like it's family values.
It
It's
could be. Genres are literally entirely made up ways of classifying things that are also entirely made up.
uh, yeah, it's definitely family value. So what do we think will happen in in part 2? Part of me wonders if we're gonna skip 3 years ahead. At this point, because of the way they talked at the end of the book with the 3-year plan and Joe and Lori talking about like what do they think will happen in 3 years. So I'm wondering if there's gonna be like a time gap. I had no clue about Lori Makes Mischief. I had no idea what Lori was gonna do. That was like last time when I was trying to figure that out. But
I don't know.
I honestly, last time, had forgotten what kind of mischief he made in that. Totally forgot about that prank. Probably because it kind of
Such a
stresses
tiny
me
kid.
out, so I put it out of my brain.
probably it was a cruel thing to do. And you're right, he probably didn't even think about Meg's feelings in the whole thing. He never would have. He says he wouldn't have done it to hurt Meg.
Right?
He didn't want to
Karen,
hurt
what were
Meg.
you starting to say?
I was trying to make predictions about that. I was like, I don't think that they're gonna do a time skip. I think they may rush the next 3 years. I don't think it's gonna necessarily be a time skip. Like we've spent 23 chapters doing 1 year. I don't think they're gonna take that long to do another. Maybe 10 chapters for a year. I don't know. Or even make five chapters for a year. Because we've by doing a whole year in 23 chapters, they basically laid out a basis of what happens throughout the year, event wise and things like that. So, I think they're not necessarily going to time skip. They're just gonna zoom by a little bit, like skim over some of the events that we've already been over that are like kind of like the same. Like for Christmas this time, instead of having like multiple chapters where they what we're gonna do because we're so broke, to the play that they did last year, to this time like, oh, this is such a great Christmas, we've all had these great presents, and oh my gosh, now Dad's here in one chapter. So
I'm surprised that they didn't do a play this year because they said they always do a play. I wonder if it's because Beth was sick that they didn't.
Well, maybe they did and they just didn't show it.
That's true.
Like,
Although they did, Lori and Joe did the little performance for Beth also.
That's true.
Not a full play, but there was some level of performance at least.
I know I was very confused in the first couple chapters when we started reading this book about Christmas, about them. The constructing of the sets were crafted by these excellent craftsmen, and it's like it's just them. But it very confused me because I'm imagining them in a theater with all these constructed sets, and I was like, I thought they were doing this in like their house, in like their living room.
Yeah.
But my brain put them in a giant theater with lots of beautifully crafted sets. And I don't know, it was bad.
That was
Oh.
way off.
I made some designs.
Ooh.
That one it'll be a macrame with wooden beads.
Yeah.
That one would be a brass diamond on the front with like a texture pounded into it, and then a silver circle behind it, and then chain with some different beads hanging from it. And then that one would be beaded. And then those are, well, that would be mixed metal. That would be similar, but with like fractured pieces instead of symmetrical pieces. This is wire wrap, and that I have absolutely no idea what I would be doing it with because I did it like it was, or drew it like it was going to be cut out of metal, and then colored it like it was going to be something else entirely.
It looks like a cupcake. I'll be honest.
Less in person. It's 3 layers, like a teardrop shape in back, and then like a
Oh, okay,
circle
I
with like
see
a
it
layer
now.
cut out, and then
Oh,
another
so cute
circle with a
little
layer cut
cupcake.
out.
See a
I see it
cupcake,
now.
a tiny cupcake on top of a big cupcake. That's what I see.
No,
Yeah.
when I mean they're sketches. None of them look like what the thing is intended to look like. I can focus on something and like draw out the way that I want it to look, or I can sketch it and not have it look like how I want it to look. People who can just like sketch something and then it looks the way they want it to look, I'm like, how do you define sketching? Because that doesn't seem like sketching to me.
Yeah, no, I can't sketch. I can't draw. Things are not pretty.
So how are you feeling about that now, Lisa?
What? I'm
The
still
pattern.
not sure. Like right now I've got it so there's 2 colors on top of each other, but the blue's gonna double back on itself. For a couple spots.
And a
And
little
then-
bit, but like as you keep going, it would,
Right. I wanted to try
Less
one
so.
more row,
yeah.
but
What'd you get done, Karen?
Not a lot. I got about a couple of eggs.
I also feel like it gets very wide very quickly. So I'm not loving that. Sorry.
I have issues with trying to get these. I couldn't get the chain through, so I just worked really hard on shoving the jump ring through. Here's his other half. I don't think these are super cute. Okay,
They're very cute,
they're
Karen.
very cute. Cover it. The one's in the.
I love it.
And then this one's the bottom half of an eggshell. I have the top half, which I'm taking a break from trying to struggle to get the jump ring through the top half.
Right. Hi. Can't stop yawning.
I know, I'm getting tired over here myself, and I start work in a couple hours.
Coffee.
All right. Well, next time we are starting section 2.
Interesting.
And if we look at the titles of the next 2 chapters, you might have, well, especially the title of the second chapter, you might have some amendment of your guesses, although I will not confirm or deny whether it's actually referencing what you would probably assume it's referencing. The next 2 chapters are chapter 24, Gossip, and chapter 25, The First Wedding. And our next session is on April 25th.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to end the live stream now, so everybody say bye.